2 years ago, for young Black as well as Latino youth, seeing that Minneapolis pig Derek Chauvin kneel on the neck of George Floyd, smirking while suffocating the life out of him with no regard for his humanity, was confirmation of their lived reality of the pig terror that dogs and haunts them every day. Every Black family, no matter whether middle class, well-to-do, or like most, struggling just to get by, live with the constant terror of their sons and daughters encountering pigs who brutalize with impunity. The wanton murder of George Floyd aroused a generation of all nationalities and hues to take to the streets for weeks to demand justice. The 9-minute excruciating cell phone video on top of so many past cell phone videos over 2 decades was the last straw for many. But this was not the first time a video ignited this nation. Perhaps the first time was 30 years ago this week on April 29th, 1992, here in Los Angeles, not more than 2 miles from where I am recording this, when this city, the second largest in the U.S., erupted in the largest rebellion in U.S. history. A little more than a year earlier, a 29-year-old Black man, Rodney King, was pulled over for speeding, and the LAPD and the highway patrol officers flooded the scene, and over the next few minutes, they engaged in what racist white mobs have done to Black people since the first slave ship discharged its cargo. It happens all the time. But what was different, what was new, was that in a nearby apartment, a man had a video cam, which at that time were just beginning to become small enough and affordable enough that regular people could have one. He went out on his terrace and filmed excruciating minute after minute of these 7 cops mercilessly beating and tasing Rodney King. And every time Rodney King tried to get up, they kicked and clubbed and crushed the bones in his face and broke his teeth, all the while laughing. This time, there was video evidence in black and white. People thought that surely this time there would be justice, but as has happened countless times before and still fucking happens today, the words for the almost all-white jury rang out.
We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant not guilty of the crime of assault by force likely to produce great bodily injury and with a deadly weapon.
With the verdict on the 4 cops broadcast on national TV, not guilty, not guilty, not guilty, not guilty for these Klansmen in blue. And thus was born a rebellion that shook this nation from coast to coast. Today, we remember and honor that rebellion, and we point to the way forward. So first, we're going to show in this segment a montage of the Los Angeles Rebellion of 1992. And then we're going to show a video of Joe Veal, a revolutionary, a Revcom, who was in the Black Panther Party when he was younger in the 1960s. And this is a speech that Joe Veal gave in 2019, in June of 2019, on the back of a pickup truck at the site of the beginning of the LA Rebellion at Florence and Normandy. Then we're going to show you a clip from a film of a talk by Bob Avakian from 2012, Revolution, Nothing Less, where he speaks about the Los Angeles Rebellion. And then I'm going to have Joe Veal here in the studio with me. So let's go to the montage of the 1992 LA Rebellion.
Okay, here we go. We're going to go in deeper and show you the core of this thing, what's going on. Let's go this way.
No justice, no justice, no peace. There's no trips down here. There's no blood down here. There's just concerned citizens down here that don't like the way the system is done. This is what we're talking about.
We got a crowd of about 400 people at least over here. very angry people. They are throwing signs. They have taken over Los Angeles streets. And again, the situation is very volatile. People keep on taunting the officers, throwing things at them.
Ron, is this an organized demonstration, or?
Well, I think it started out as an organized demonstration, and then it grew and grew, and now it has been for the past hour or so pretty much a standoff here.
You better let go now. Okay, Michael, things have escalated dramatically in the last 15 minutes. That is the third flag that you are looking at. They have burned.
Where you're looking at one of the Parker Center guard stations. One of the guard stations, they have taken it over. They are breaking the windows. We are asking people to stay out of this area.
Police officers trying to seal off the street. The group basically just marching right down the middle of the street.
It is a multiracial crowd. It is not predominantly any color.
There's a fellow who's lighting the trees, is he not?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, going along block to block, and nobody's stopping. I mean, one tree after another.
These bearded palms with the dead fronds hanging down, great fuel for an arsonist.
Some of the officers a little while ago, and they really don't know what to do right now. There are TV cameras all over, there are people all over, and I don't think anybody really knows what to do and how to get this under control.
Everybody across this country, people in other parts of the world saw this video where the police, 4 of them, swinging their baton like a baseball player swings a Louisville slugger. Again, beating Rodney King, again and again, over and over, as they make racist jokes and laugh as they beat him and tortured him again and again. And then on top of this, people thinking that now we've caught him on video, so now finally they're going to have to pay for the bullshit and for the brutality that they always bring down on black people. Right. And as well as they bring down on Latino people. And now that we have them on video for the first time, they're going to be held to pay for that. But what happened? They let those pigs off. Again. Bullshit. It was like pouring salt on an open wound. But right here, people rose up and they fought back and they hit back. And when black people hit back, they were immediately joined with immigrants and Latino people as well. I remember riding through LA, seeing the graffiti, Black and Mexicans Unite, United Tonight, 4/29/92, rolling through LA as these pigs was running and the city was on fire. Look, I
Bob Avakian. We do not get those kind of leaders. The oppressed and exploited people in history, we rarely get a leader like B.A. Someone who's given their heart and soul to the cause of the masses to get free, who has brought forward a whole approach, a whole method and approach that we can take up to emancipate ourselves and to emancipate all of humanity.
Let's go back again to the LA Rebellion. Sometimes it's forgotten, and we need to not forget how hard so many of the people caught up in a lot of bad shit tried to break out of that at that time. From the first night of the rebellion to some time in its aftermath. There was the graffiti on the wall in LA the first night of the rebellion. Blacks and Mexicans together tonight. Think about what that signified and how significant that was. And then in the aftermath of the rebellion, you had all these attempts at forging unity, overcoming these deep divisions among the people that had grown over years with bitter antagonism. There were unity picnics. There were attempts at unity conferences all around the country. The police would attack the unity picnics. I remember seeing a picture at that time of two young guys, one a Blood and one a Crip, shortly after the rebellion with their arms around each other. Do we understand the significance of that and how much that means? These are youth who from a very early age are taught that they count for nothing and deserve nothing but a boot up their ass and a bullet in their brain, or a long time in jail. And so you have nothing, and you're told to expect nothing. And so you try to get something by carving out a little space on a street in a neighborhood that doesn't belong to you. Doesn't really mean anything, but it's all that you can feel, that you can plant yourself in and find some meaning and purpose in. And then there are other people 2 blocks away. Whether you're Mexicans and in your rival gangs, or you're black in your rival gangs, or Vietnamese, or whatever. People 2 blocks away just like you. But if they come in the little territory that you've staked out your hood, the rules are they're slipping, you got to shoot them. You shoot them. So then they have to come back and kill you and your family and your friends. And on it goes back and forth for years and years. People kept like in cages. And here they took the step, after all these years of this bitter experience of friends and loved ones being killed on both sides, back and forth. And the meaning of their putting their arms around each other and trying to forge something different, but the system wouldn't have it and couldn't have it. They attacked the unity picnics time and again. But more than that, the program that these people, these youth and others who, OGs in the gangs and whatever, tried to come up with was a program for reform, for entrepreneurialism that couldn't work under the system. There was no room for it. And so it didn't go anywhere, and then many went back to the old ways, and youth coming up fell back and, were sort of channeled into those ways. But they tried so hard. And so genuinely heroically. And the problem is that under the system, there's no basis for overcoming these kind of divisions. But in striving for and building a movement for revolution, there is the basis, and this is what we have to be fighting for, to bring forward the full potential of these and other youth and other sections of oppressed people, men and women, to be the backbone and driving force, and win them through a lot of struggle to be that backbone and driving force of this revolution. And where this happens, when they do make this great leap to becoming part of the revolution, and yes, it is a great leap, then among others in the communities they come from, and much more broadly among other sections of society as well, people have to be rallied in different ways and forms to encourage and back up these youth who take this great step of joining the ranks of the revolution, so that they can not only continue to get more and more deeply involved themselves, but can play a key part in bringing forward many others. We need to find whatever the forms are to give life and expression to this. We need to find the forms for people who are not going to be on the front lines actively out there fighting the power, but are contributing to the revolution and can contribute in many other ways, to back up these youth, to say in ways that have meaning, we are proud of our youth when they step forward into the ranks of the revolution. We need to even develop ceremonies that express this. We need to develop a collective culture that gives life and meaning to this. And there's much sentiment out there that can be tapped in this direction. Everybody wants the youth to do better. Even the church-going ladies. These boys out here, they're not doing anything good. They need to do something better. They need to get to Jesus. Well, no, they don't need to get to Jesus. They need to get with the revolution. But even the church-going ladies can be appreciative of this. And this is not just in one community or among one section, but much more broadly. And this is a way that we can implement what's talked about in that strategy statement of developing growing cores of people that constitute relatively small numbers now, dozens here, but then become hundreds and become the thousands that, as we put it in that statement, are actively and openly with the revolution and are influencing millions among all different sections of the people. And being prepared and preparing themselves to get to the point where they can lead those millions when a revolutionary situation has been brought into being through the workings of this system itself and the ongoing conscious and consistent work of revolutionaries. And people are looking for leadership that has an actual program and has the actual orientation and determination to fight through to actually bring about a radical change. Now the question is, if we get to that point where there is a revolutionary situation and millions of people are looking and are determined to search out a radical way forward, in that situation, when people are looking desperately for a different way and for leadership to give this an organized expression around a concrete program, will there be a revolutionary force that has been built strong enough, is experienced enough, organized enough, grounded enough in the necessary science to seize on this and fight through all the obstacles to take things where they need to go?
That was Bob Avakian from the 2012 talk and film, BA Speaks Revolution Nothing Less, going deeply in this part of the speech into the unity that was built in the course of that rebellion between people who had been set against each other by the workings of the system, the situation they found them in. We're going to get more deeply into that now because we have with us at the RNL studio Joe Veal, who is a revolutionary. In the 1960s, he was part of the Black Panther Party, and into the 1970s when he became a revolutionary communist and follower of Bob Avakian. So, join me in welcoming Joe Veal to the RNL studio.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here.
All right. Well, Joe's been on the show before, and he has a lot of insight into this because, Joe, the day the rebellion kicks off, you and some of your comrades jump in a car in Oakland and then drive down to Los Angeles. So tell us, what was the significance of going down here? And what was a rebellion that was beginning to be attacked like crazy on the media and has continued to be maligned by those forces in power, as well as all sorts of reformists. But you guys came down here and got into, what was it like? What was the mood of the people?
It was great, and, it was their resistance. We couldn't, resist jumping in the car and coming, right down immediately and stuff. And, and jumping in and taking part, with the masses, like standing up in rebellion. It was a really heroic uprising after what had happened to Rodney King, the brutal beating, and them like letting those pigs like walk in that like way, So we came and we immediately, it was a powerful attraction like for us, and so we just jumped in the car and came down, and but we brought revolution. That's what we was bringing, the need for like revolution. To get rid of this system that created those conditions that led to that brutal beating of Rodney King, led to the brutal treatment of black people historically under this system, other oppressed people. So we came to to take part in that and to bring the revolutionary solution, the revolutionary leadership and stuff like to that and everything. And, and it was great. It was great. And it was very powerful because the social order that led to what happened to Rodney King had broken down completely. And the masses were in the streets and stuff. And that's what we jumped into like with them. Like I just like said, to bring like revolution, that revolutionary solution and stuff like to that.
First off, that was the second rebellion in Los Angeles. 27 years before, there'd been a rebellion in Watts, and the same conditions were there and had intensified and created that rebellion. Here we are 30 years later, and some of this same situation presents today. This is the whole point, that this is built into the system. And then when people rose up, we got a sense from the video, a sense from what you're talking about, that ferocious joy. But Bob Avakian was talking about the truce that came, the unity that was built and how precious that was, and then the truces that came up. And you were telling me before the RevComs went right into the midst of that. And yeah, it was controversial. There's some stories you had about the housing projects and whatnot. I think it'd be important to tell people some of this.
Yeah, and we went to all the truce meetings, all the picnics, all the conferences, to bring, the message of revolution, the need like for that and the leadership for that. Some of it was very welcome by by people. When we first got here, we had no place to stay and everything. And we told, we just went to the masses and told them what we were about and everything. And some places people embraced us and put us up, gave us place to stay and everything. I just remember one of the projects in Watts, and, being out late at night one night and them coming, people walking down, these young women walking down the streets with a woman comrade of mine and saying that, over there in the PJs, talking about another project in Watts, they got the NAACP staying with them. But over here, we got the communists staying with us. And they were very proud of that and everything, but at the same time, some people, they did not welcome us and stuff. And, I remember, being like approached and stuff and people saying, get the fuck out of here with that revolution. We don't need that. And they were on a whole other like tip in terms of, that gangster like life and stuff, but trying to, maybe get some legitimate backing for what they were trying to pursue and stuff at that time. And I mean, them stepping to us and said, not only what I just like said, but then they would, and they would be, are y'all ready to die for this revolution? And they would be strapped. And our response was, yes, we are, because we represent the masses of people. What's in the interest of the masses of people, not only here, but all over the world. And that you should be, that's what the revolution is about. And you should be about that too. And stuff, instead of this other shit that you like talking about like right here and stuff. And I think that our response like to that, it threw them off. They was expecting some other kind of response. But we was like, we was real. The revolution is real. I mean, we were serious and we were real The rebellion was real and it was righteous, and what we was bringing to the rebellion was real and was righteous, and people needed to relate to it, and we wasn't going to back down in the face of anything in terms of being able to bring this out to the masses.
Well, I think now here we are 30 years later, people still being gunned down by the police, people still being, and in fact, since the rebellion, mass incarceration, the situation for the masses of people is worse, if anything, including the fact that people have lost some hope. But we also had to go through some summation about all of this and what it's going to actually take and how do we actually relate to this. There was, and I think you brought out, and we saw in the videos, that saying that was popular at that time, when now a rebellion's not a revolution, but there was the saying that when revolution has its day, people see another way, and you had that unity, but then that unity falls apart because of the workings of the system. That's what Bob Avakian was bringing out. But I'd like to talk a little bit about, what has been summed up, especially by Bob Avakian in the new communism, the new synthesis of communism, about how we actually have to go at this, the development and strategy to understand that we need to fight the power and transform the people for revolution. And I think we should talk a little bit about this, because now we're in a situation that's unique, which is that now there's, as he's analyzed and we brought forth in this show, there is the possibility in the current situation that a revolutionary situation where it would actually be possible to make a revolution exists. But we need those people he spoke about who are that force of people who are revolutionaries, who don't see it as, I'm going to get into this for mine or for me, but I'm going to get into this for the revolution. So what have we learned about that struggle that has been deepened over the last decade since?
Well, what we really learned, like from Bob Avakian especially, is that we really have to go much harder and much deeper with that kind of struggle that you're identifying with these masses of people, much more harder and deeper around, people have to change their outlook, the way that they're, even approaching when they're thinking about like revolution. It's not for revolution is not about serving myself or serving my homies or serving my community. It's about like freeing the people, freeing the masses of people and freeing like all humanity. It's not about trying to get yours or get mine or whatever, like under this system. That's a whole different, revolution is a whole different way of understanding and approaching and dealing with, reality, how it really works. Because what we ran into, just to be a little bit more specific, is that, like some people, really thought, some people still think that way now, that, that they were going to be able to get some kind of government funding and be able to, to back them in some kind of program, whether that's for their own personal or for their little clique or for their neighborhood or whatever and stuff like that. And that they were going to be able to, set up some kind of little capitalist enterprise that was going to be able to make and generate like money, but they was going to be doing it and be good and kind and treat people good. That in some kind of way they don't have to act, and they would be able to act outside of the dictates of the capitalist dynamics of making like profit at the, profit at the expense of the masses of people and stuff. And so so that was some of the struggle that we were like waging, like with people that around, like for what and for whom is this revolution is about, and what are we fighting like for what and for whom, what kind of world, what kind of society. I think, initially we did a lot about like fighting the power, fighting the system, even, but, and what we learned, but we have to transform, people have to transform while they fight, transform their thinking for a revolution. And the content of revolution is emancipating humanity, and that's for a whole new world, a whole new society and a whole new world beyond the bounds and the dictates of this capitalist system, and with all the divisions that it keeps people like pitted against each other, keep us like fighting each other, different neighborhoods, different sets like fighting each other, competing for different jobs, competing to go to school, competing to get in this position over somebody, stepping over somebody else to be able to advance or whatever and stuff. All of that is in the dictates of this capitalist system and the revolution. And that's what has to like change. That's a trap. And that's what has got us like trapped, what has like the masses like of humanity like trapped, thinking along those systems way of thinking and stuff. And what we really like need to get, or think in a whole different way that corresponds to a whole different way of organizing society and human beings who make up society and how they interact and relate to one another and build a society based upon those kind of relations, which is possible today in the world.
Well, I think those are really important points. And for those who are for the first time seeing this, learning about the 1992 Los Angeles Rebellion, and for those who've forgotten or it's receded in your memory or you've absorbed some of that summation that this was just a horror, when you see the masses of people rising up like that, that ferocious joy and that unity that's being built, everything that you've just been talking about, Joe, that you can see that possibility is something that people desire. And since that rebellion, through the leadership of Bob Avakian, a strategy has been developed to actually make a revolution that could win. There's a film, Why We Need an Actual Revolution and How We Could Really Make Revolution. There's a pamphlet, How We Could Really Win a Revolution. There's a lot of work that's been done. So for anybody watching this show who looks at this rebellion and says, yeah, but what can we do about it? What you can do about it is get into BA, get into this revolution, find out about it, and then we got to get busy because there's a time now when we could actually make a revolution. So Joe, I want to thank you for being on the show on this 30th anniversary of the rebellion, and hope people come out on May 1st and find out more about the RevComs in New York or Los Angeles, and then you're going to have you back on the show soon.
Look forward to it.
Okay.